Since the last video when I failed to repair this RAM chip, you may now notice there's actually a RAM chip in here in a socket, because what actually happened was I was looking at this going, what the hell is going wrong? Why have I messed up all the soldering and everything like that? And I had a look at my soldering iron and it was actually calibrated wrong, and it was about 100 degrees lower than it was supposed to be. So I had the soldering iron on 350 and it was just barely melting the solder, and every time I got some solder wick in there it just wasn't working. So I got a temperature probe out, recalibrated it, and then suddenly this whole thing was so much easier to solder. I was just testing out soldering some pads on an old board. So I thought, well, if now it's this much easier to solder, because I was having so much trouble, it was just my idiocy for doing that. I really should have known. I knew you could calibrate the soldering iron, I just hadn't done it. I was like, why am I not doing this? So I thought I'll have another go at soldering the socket. So I did. I've put a new socket in. It's all connected correctly. I managed to not bridge the solder on those tracers. Unfortunately, this doesn't work. So the RAM chip is installed. Computer doesn't crash, but it doesn't see the RAM chip. And the reason is this socket broke when I put it in. Yeah, so what actually happened is I got it in, and when I pushed the chip in, this bit here, I don't know if you can see it, but right here, this bit's broken. And it means that this like actually isn't going together properly. And it's just not quite making contact with the pins down there. The reason I know this is because I actually, if I squeezed this together with the tweezers, I squeezed it together and booted the computer. And guess what? It actually saw the full RAM chip. So unfortunately, I've kind of got this working. I now verified that this RAM chip here is actually a good one. So I know this works. But unfortunately, this socket has failed me again, and there's really, you can see the small amount of room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try again. This socket is going to have to come off again. What I'm going to do this time is I'm not going to cut these fat bits here. I'm going to just cut these thin bits and leave these fat bits in, and so I can give this thing more strength. This one's got to come out, obviously, so I've got to get that. This will be the third time I've taken this socket out. I've only got 2 of these left, so if I fail on these 2, then that'll be it. I'd have to order new sockets or abandon this. So the other problem, which I think I mentioned in one of the other videos, this floppy drive has to go in here. So it doesn't actually quite meet there. So I'm figuring that maybe I could just put a spacer in underneath where that the drive's supposed to screw in, and hopefully I can get this further enough away from this to actually get it in. So now I've actually got this socket in, it's probably a good time to try and work out how this floppy drive fits back in this case. Unfortunately, it means I have to put the shield back on the bottom and put it back in the case and almost basically reassemble it. I think that's the next stage for this. So there's the problem. Yeah, so the floppy's in and it's sitting on the case outside here, but it's actually resting on top of this socket, and you can see there's a gap underneath here where it would screw into the case. So maybe if I just put a spacer underneath here, that'll be fine, but I need to check if the screw is long enough. So I think it's this one. This is a self-tapping screw. I think this is the one that goes in here. Let's see. There's definitely enough screw to fit with that spacing in, but maybe this will work. Oh, that's definitely in there. There is actually enough room to get a little space under there. Yeah, that's totally going to go in, I think. Oh no, wait a minute. I'm an idiot. There's a tab here. I need to bend this. Oh, there's a tab here as well. There's loads of them. Yeah, there's actually plenty of room now. Ooh. So I can't tell if it is the floppy drive that's stopping me from getting this closed. So it's closing on that end, which maybe indicates that it is. So I'm not doing very well getting this in. I'm going to try it without this bracket on. Maybe I could just mount it without that. I mean, I think this provides grounding between here and here as well. If grounding's a problem, I can just ground it. But this actually fits in without that bracket. Maybe I need to cut this bracket off here. I'm not going to do that now, but at least I know that this thing can actually go in. But yeah, what a nightmare. There's not a lot of room in here at all. Yeah, so that's totally going to go in, because I mean, that's just exactly where the floppy drive was before. I'm going to go ahead and repair this socket again. So yeah, I think I'm going to attempt to modify one of these and just cut the little bits out so I can get the soldering iron in and just leave the big bits in. I can still get a soldering iron in there. This one's the winner. This is my last socket because this one the pin fell out, 2 of them broke and that one broke. That's come off all right. So let's just check that I've not... Yeah, so it is taking its toll on this trace here. It's getting a bit knackered from the heat. I suppose I should boot this first and find out that I've not damaged it by taking that socket off. Hopefully not. So this is just testing that the computer boots. It's got no U17 RAM chip in it. Grey's a good sign. Oh, there it is. Right. So we're back to where we were. So it's time to try and get another socket in. Here we go again. Right, a little bit of solder on each corner. I think that's 2. So I think I'll try these dodgy pins first. Yeah, even the flux pen fits with these extra gaps. Yeah, I knew this first one was going to be a bastard. It's on, but because I left a floor in this time, you can see all the bits that got melted by the soldering iron. But it's in there and it's pretty solid this time. Right, I don't think I've bridged any connections, and I think everything that is supposed to be connected is connected. I'm going to boot the computer without the chip in again, and hopefully we just boot the computer. Cross your fingers, we just want a kickstart screen. Make sure, grey screen, grey screen. Whew. Right, now we can see if we can get a RAM chip in. So I wonder if all the destruction I've done to this socket is going to allow this thing to go in, but hopefully, because last time I think it snapped when I put this RAM chip in, which is a bit fiddly to get in actually. Oh, that felt a lot better. That is sitting in there quite nicely and it's in the right way. Well, let's see what we get. If we get to the kickstart screen, doesn't mean this RAM chip's work, it just means we haven't broken anything. So let's see if we get green screen or whatever. Well, we get grey. Alright, so it's still working with the RAM chip in, so now I just need to plug a floppy disk in and see if it will boot. Right, so I've got a floppy and a mouse plugged in, and it's going to boot Workbench 1.3. So that's a good sign, it still boots. So I've not made it worse. So we're looking for about 800 kilobytes of RAM free. Oh, it's not seen it. Oh, it's not there. So this is a disaster. So it's saying 300, it should say about 800 kilobytes there. I think it's not making good contact down there. Yeah, you can see how it's like warped a little bit. That's not the camera. But I've checked all the pins are connected. Yeah, it's just pushed it out in the middle there. So I'm just going to push this spudger in there to make that socket bend a bit better. And then I'm going to boot the computer and see if we get all the RAM. No. No. Oh, did you see that? There was a green screen for a second there. It's not having it. And let's just verify that if I put my old RAM chip back in, that I get my green screen of death back. So this is the broken RAM chip. Yeah, so that's my old fault back. So that's a bit annoying. So the unfortunate news is, after the chip wasn't detected, I went in and tried to have another go at some of these solder joints that looked a bit dodgy. And when I did that, basically the computer just green screened even without a chip in. So I was looking in here to see what it was. I couldn't find anything. All the solder joints looked good. I checked for shorts on the data lines and I couldn't find any, but the computer still green screens. I saw a little bead of solder go underneath this little floor that was in here and I couldn't get it out, and I thought, well, maybe it's all getting shorted underneath there. So I thought I'll try and cut the floor out, and I did that, and it broke this, unsurprisingly, broke this socket. So this has got to come out. So it's a failed again. Oh, there you go. Look, this stuff's just completely come off. So it's another fail, but hopefully I can get us back to where we were again. It's a shame because I couldn't see anything wrong with these this time after even checking everything. This socket just didn't want to happen, I'm afraid. Yeah, lifted a pad that time. Let's just see if we get it back. Hopefully, no green screen of death. Yeah, it looks like we're back where we were. Yep. So I think fail number 2 is definitely not going back this time. Now one of the pads is gone. That's definitely it. That chip's never going back. So that's a real shame. I just couldn't manage it. Maybe it's because of these crappy sockets or maybe something else, but there we go. Fail number 2, just didn't want to work.